I want to talk to you this week about my own story. Why am I sharing that with you? Well, it's not because my story should be your story. More than anything else, I want to share it with you to give you an idea that if I can do it, you can do it also. So let me go through it just briefly for you. When I got out of law school, I was required to go into the Air Force. While in the Air Force, fortunately for me, I had the chance to become a government contract litigator. The reason that was fortunate was because every single time I was litigating a case, there was someone on the other side representing the contractor, and so this was a ready-made job for the future. When it was time to get out of the Air Force, I had a chance to go to government contract law firms and be one of the younger lawyers in those firms. Instead of doing that, I chose to go back to Roanoke, Virginia. I had gone to Virginia Tech, so there was a reason to do that, and to be part of a relatively small law firm. When I went back to Roanoke, I thought what I wanted to do was to be the best commercial litigator in Roanoke. There was one slight problem. Someone already had the title. And even today, over 30 years later, that same lawyer has the title. Then I decided I wanted to narrow my specialty, in part because if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. And marketing commercial litigation was in essence marketing to everyone. So I narrowed my focus to construction litigation. And the reason for doing that is that many of the construction contracts were like the government contracts that I had previously worked on. A couple years later, I decided to narrow my focus even further and to focus on highway and transportation construction. And I'd never handled a case in that area. But one of the reasons that I wanted to focus on that area is that I wasn't aware of other lawyers who had made that their specialty. Plus, I had gone to college with two family-owned businesses, the sons of those businesses. So it was a natural thing for me to focus on. So the first thing I did is I wrote a law review article. Now, I would never do that again. It took an incredible amount of time. But the value in doing it was to be able to learn the law in my new specialty. And then once I finished the article, I could send out my article with a cover on it to various construction contractors who might find it valuable. Next, I was appointed by the governor of Virginia to be part of a commission that was rewriting the government contract law. I didn't plan for that, but that opportunity got me in front of the decision makers in Richmond, in the government, and that was an important part of my growth. Next, I had an opportunity to speak at the ABA annual meeting in 1980 on highway construction. Now, once again, that didn't get me any business. You know, the lawyers who were there felt like they could do that kind of work themselves. But just the opportunity to speak in front of that group and the pressure associated with that was very valuable to me. In the fall of that year, I had my first opportunity to speak in front of the Virginia highway contractors at their annual meeting. I did that program, and one of the people in attendance at that program was a representative of the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. He asked me to come speak to their group. Now, all these things I'm describing, those presentations to the Virginia road builders and then the American road builders, all were designed to build my visibility and credibility to the target market I wanted to have hire me. A few years later, I was speaking at a meeting of American road builders, and a gentleman came up to me after my presentation. He said, "I'm with Roads and Bridges magazine. I'd like to interview you." I looked at him and I said, "Instead of interviewing me, why don't you have me write a monthly column for Roads and Bridges magazine?" That was in 1983. For the next 24 years, every single month, I wrote that column. Every single month, my photo was there with the column. And I used that again as an opportunity to reach out to virtually everyone associated with the highway construction industry in the United States. Visibility and credibility. Now, along the way, I had the opportunity to work for those two companies I mentioned earlier. When I was a young lawyer, the fathers of the fellows I had gone to college with ran the companies. They had their own lawyers. And in fact, in both cases, the lawyer who represented the company was among the best friends of the father. So how was I able to ultimately unseat that lawyer who was already in place? It was by becoming the specialist in the area that they needed. In other words, I narrowed my focus, became a specialist associated with transportation construction and all the legal implications and all the legal problems that that industry faced. So the point of my story to share with you is simply this. You can't market to everyone. You have to figure out a way to narrow your market. If you can find an area where it's not a crowded field of other lawyers, that's ever so much the better. If I were doing it today, I would be looking at what are the fastest growing industries right now. Fortune publishes a list. I've seen other lists as well. But take a look. What are the fast growing industries right now? How can you become an expert in the legal issues that impact companies in those industries? And then how can you become visible and credible to that market? That's my story. It could be your story as well.